Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David Klein, and on behalf of the United States Aquaculture Society, the National Aquaculture Association, and the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. Today is about aquaculture and aquaponics economics, the Auburn experience. And we're extremely fortunate to have today Dr. Terry Hanson, who is a critical component of the Auburn University School of Fisheries, Aquaculture and Aquatic Sciences. Terry's been studying aquaculture aquaponics for over 30 years and has conducted research on various aspects of fish culture production, including the costs and the interrelated effects of fish genetics, nutrition, disease, and water quality, as well as the value chain analysis. He's worked mostly with catfish, but has also worked with tilapia and shrimp in various production systems, including ponds, raceways, as well as recirculating systems. We appreciate you all being here today. If you will, just everybody make sure your mics stay muted unless you'd like to ask a question, and we'll try and do that at the end. But if you have questions as we go along, feel free to type those in the chat box. And with that, I will turn it over to Terry and we'll take it away.
Well, thank you very much, David. It's very good to be here. It's nice of you to have me speak today about aquaponic economics. And I'll go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to look at a couple of things. We're going to look at farm management tools. So if the audience knows a lot about farm management, this may be going over some things you already know. If you do not know about farm management, then this will introduce you into some of our tools like the cash flow statement, the enterprise budget, and conducting sensitivity analyses. And to show these and demonstrate these farm management tools, we'll be looking at what we've done in our 4th year of this current version of the Aquaponics project, which went from October of 2018 through September of 2019. And at the end, some of the lessons and future directions of research that will need to be continued. First and foremost, it's not just one person doing this project. We have a talented and interdisciplinary team. Dr. Daniel Wells is in horticulture. He's done a lot of the aquaponic vegetable production research. David Blursch is in ag and biosystems engineering, and he's looking at the water once it leaves the plant greenhouse to see how additional uses of the water can be used, the remaining nutrients from the fish effluent for growing algae and producing lactic acid, a precursor of plastics, and also energy. And Brendan Higgins, he came on the project about 2 years ago. He's in ag and bioengineering as well. And he's leading a project right now on life cycle analysis and stoichiometry, the big mass equations of what goes in and what comes out, as well as looking at equipment to automate monitoring the system. And Jesse Chappell retired last December, but he was leading us on the aquaponic fish production side. And Dr. Tong-Shi Huang, he's in the poultry science department, but he's a microbiologist and looks at food safety. This was to help us address whether the leafy vegetables or cucumbers or tomatoes coming out of the aquaponics was safe for humans to eat. And he had a master's student work on that for over 2 years, and they found it, and 2 master's students actually, and they found that it was a safe product. And Dr. Jeremy Pickens, he's our extension greenhouse vegetable production person, and he specifically looks a lot into the energy of these greenhouses and how to reduce those costs. And Molly Smith, she's the facility development and manager out there. She's the one that kind of cracks the whip and making sure the daily chores get done and data is collected, and in general just keeps things running smoothly. And of course, David Klein, who's our host today, he jumps right in and does workshop trainings in aquaponics and with a high school program, but on aquaponics around giving workshops nationally and around the state as well. And Glenn Lothridge, he's the head of the AU dining facility. It sounds like a strange person to have on your team, but he's the one that we sell our tilapia to and our vegetables that we produce, and he puts it on the menu, and he makes sure students are aware of sustainably and locally produced foods. He's got a real enthusiasm and mission to let students know where their food is coming from. And so we appreciate him very much. He's given us a lot of support over the years. And of course, the professors need students. So we have a whole host of students that have been doing wonderful work in all these interdisciplinary areas. Alan Patillo in fisheries, Kyle Henserling in horticulture, Caroline Blanchard in horticulture, Rohit Kalva in biosystems engineering, Emmanuel Ayipo in horticulture, Josh Marcus in biosystems engineering, Nate Wallace Springer in horticulture, Jenny Dorick in poultry science, food safety, and I'll just say Gabi in biosystems engineering. And of course, Gift Bender, she works as Molly Smith's right-hand person to keep the facility going. So, you know, a lot of people have heard about aquaponics and they think it's a miracle cure. Well, the devil is in the details. We're still discovering a lot about these systems, and doing the analysis and keeping the data on these systems provides a lot of insight into what's is happening. And from my point of view, what's happening in dollars and cents, and what we might need to do to improve the profitability. And, you know, as people look into aquaponics, they want to know how much you can produce and where is it the best application for aquaponics, and is it viable? And of course, the answer to all of the economic viability is it depends. And I'll show you more about that. And it's in the media right now. So a lot of information is out there, some good, some not so good, but people are developing their perceptions of aquaponics and whether they'll pay a premium for the products coming out of aquaponics. And financial planning, just one quick word about financial planning. It needs to be done so that your operation has a better chance of being successful. Many businesses start up and fail across the spectrum, and the same is true in aquaculture. So by doing your homework and learning as much as you can about aquaponic systems and looking at it economically is going to help you get it right. So we use economic tools and analyses so that we can understand the financial strengths and weaknesses of these systems. And you'll see that as we go through today's presentation. One of the main building blocks in farm management are enterprise budgets, and they give us an insight into potential profitability. But like anything, garbage in, garbage out. So what you put into these analyses, these spreadsheets for the cash flow and the enterprise budget, they need to be based on good data or have an expert helping you along. And so the enterprise budgets, you know, they help look at the break-even price, which is what we compare to the price we're receiving. If the break-even price is lower than the price we're receiving, then you're making some money. We look at that for both the variable costs and also for the variable plus fixed cost. And enterprise budgets are good to let you compare one enterprise with another enterprise, which is very useful to you. And there's a set of rules to follow doing these enterprise development construction so that you'll be able to compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So the Auburn University aquaponic greenhouse was built at a pilot scale. One fish greenhouse, we grow tilapia, and one vegetable greenhouse. What I'm going to present today was cucumbers, but we've also done cherry tomatoes. We've also done herbs, and in the final analysis, probably a profitable enterprise will have different items, but that depends on the scale. This system is what we call a decoupled system, which means the water from the fish tank is clarified, and then it goes into drip emitters into these Beto buckets. to grow the cucumbers. And then any water that drains through those Beto buckets or Dutch buckets is drained out of the fish green or the plant greenhouse, and it does not go back to the tilapia or fish greenhouse. But we do use the effluent second and third and fourth time after the plant greenhouse. We used it in irrigating raised bed tomato production, for example. We also have David Blursch looking at running this effluent through these long raceway troughs with different meshes of net lining the bottom of those troughs. And it grows different types of algae, which can be used for their fuel or their fat content and fuel potential. So we're going to look at startup investment costs, and we'll look at the cash flow analysis. We'll look at the enterprise budget, and we'll look at some sensitivity analysis. And as we go along, I'll show you how these are constructed and used, as well as using the aquaponics data to fill in the actual items. So this is our integrated tilapia vegetable cucumber greenhouse system. On the bottom left, you can see the fish greenhouse. We have two 25,000 gallon tanks. And for this analysis today, we're only using one of these tanks. We're only using half of the fish tanks growing tilapia, and that's enough nutrients to fill one greenhouse and also additional 2, 3, 4 greenhouses. We still have plenty of nutrients left over after the first run through the plants in the plant greenhouse number 1. This is a 30 by 96 foot greenhouse. We have a clarifier unit where a low head pump allows the water to come out of the fish tank. It goes through a gravity fed clarifier where the water is forced to go down a baffle and then back up the other side, and the heavier solids fall out and are collected. And then it goes to the second clarifier unit, and the same thing happens again. The water is forced down below a baffle and comes up the other side, and the heavier particles fall out. And those can be removed for additional use as well, for fertilizer and also for nutrients and substrate for pots if we want to put them in the plant greenhouse. Then the water goes over into the plant greenhouse. You can see the flow of the water coming through here, up here, and then it taps into this line here, which has emitters into each one of these buckets called Beto buckets. And then the water exits through here. We do need propane at certain times of the year, but oftentimes we have too much heat. So we need these gable fans to blow air out of the greenhouse, which creates a flow and keeps it drier so less diseases occur. So we're gonna today develop an investment spreadsheet where our fixed costs will come from that are used in our enterprise budget. We'll develop a cash flow spreadsheet, which shows our receipts and variable costs. And then we'll construct an enterprise budget, which adds interest charged to the variable, interest on operating cost, and it adds the fixed cost. And from that, we can calculate our short-term indicator of profitability, the income above variable cost. We can get the total cost. We can get net returns to variable and fixed cost and determine what it costs to produce one unit in the system, and break-even prices. Now, the little twist today is we're not just doing this for one enterprise, but we're doing it for two enterprises and how they interact. So the enterprise budget gets a little bit longer, but it gives us information on each operation as well as combined. And then finally, we'll look at some sensitivity analyses. And these are used what if scenarios. Okay, we're making money, we want to make more money. What could we do? And let's try those things and see what it comes out financially. Or if you're not making money, what are some things we could do to make it more profitable? So the first thing we're going to look through is look at these two systems of the fish and the plant greenhouse and what costs go into it. On the upper left, you can see a greenhouse, and you can see the two tanks where we clear the water of its solids before it goes to the plant greenhouse. This is the inside of the fish greenhouse where the tilapia are grown. And here you can see the hoppas. We use hoppas. We have 4 hoppas in here where we put tilapia in the hoppas so they don't have free run of the whole raceway, but that way we can control the sizes and what we're feeding them and keep track of feed conversion and other important indicators of efficiency. We have air lines. You can see the bubbles here, and that comes from a 1.5 horsepower blower, which shoots air through this big white tube pipe around the edges, and then it has these black tubes and air stones at the bottom of these fish raceways. And the water comes over here, and you can see these are the Beto buckets, and tomatoes you can see here. And here's this black line. Oops, this black line is where we see the emitters coming out and going into each of these pots. And underneath the ground is a whole system of pipes where the water is collected and pumped out. And that's a lot of extra that you would probably not do in the commercial sector, but we are a research institution. So a lot of the things we do here are a double goal of acting as if this is a commercial pilot scale, but also conducting our research. And sometimes those conflict with each other, but we manage the two together. So I'm going to go right to the end of the fixed cost here, and then I'll show you the detail in just a minute. The total investment for the fish greenhouse is $59,000, almost $60,000. The plant greenhouse is almost $61,000. So in total, it's about $120,000 for these 2 greenhouses. And we calculate the depreciation, interest on loans, repairs and maintenance. And for both fish and plant greenhouse, it amounts to about $13,310 per year. Now, how do we get those things? We'll look at that now. We've got our in fixed cost. The acronym we use is DIRTI, D-I-R-T-I, which stands for depreciation, interest on loans, repairs and maintenance, taxes and insurance. Looking at the annual depreciation, it's a fixed cost, and we have to determine a useful life for each item. We purchase a blower. How long is it going to last? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? So each piece of equipment and constructed item has what we call an economic life. And we use that in our depreciation calculation, which is the cost of the item minus any salvage value that we could sell it for at the end of its useful life. And that sum we divide by its useful life. So here's an example here. If we pick something like this, let's see, this blower here. It cost $917 each. We used 2 of them, so that's $1,834. Its useful life is 10 years. We're going to say a 0 salvage value, so 1,834 divided by 10 gives us 183. So when we add all of these up for both the capital items and the equipment items, we get $3,569 in depreciation for the fish greenhouse. In a very similar manner for the plant depreciation, let's pick an item here like these, let's see, let's just say the shade cloth. $741, we use 1 of those, 10-year life expectancy, 741 divided by 10 is $74. And when we add all of these up, we come to $3,916 and add that to the fish depreciation, we come up with that $13,310. By the way, this is being recorded, so you can go back to this recording and slow this down and look at this in more detail. Annual interest on investment loans. What we do here is we take the average investment, and that is the item's cost, and we divide by 2. Now, why would we do that? Well, when you think about loans, you have a principal and an interest. And each time you have a payment due, in the early years, it's mostly interest. All of this blue area here is interest, and just a small portion of principal is paid off. As we go in time and get towards the middle, we see interest is still more than 50%, and principal is almost 50% of the equal annual payment. And then after this midpoint, we have more of the principal being paid in that equal annual payment than we do the interest. And so this spot right in the middle, which is the cost divided by 2, is what we want to use for our interest calculation. So we take the average investment and multiply it by the interest rate, and interest rates are favorable these days. We're using a medium-term interest rate of 6% per annum. So when we look at this same investment table, what we're now looking at is the annual loan interest. So we look at this total cost of the greenhouse package, which includes all these items, and we divide it by 2 and we get 19,150, and then we multiply it by this 0.06, which is 6%, and gives us $1,149 of interest. And then we add all of these up and we come up with $1,699 for the fish greenhouse. And exactly the same manner, the cooling pad, for example, $2,575 divided by 2 is $1,288, and multiplied by 6%, we get $64. We do that for all of the row items and add them up, and we get $1,712 in the plant greenhouse annual investment loan interest. And add the 2 together and we get $3,411. The third fixed cost is annual repairs and maintenance. Now you may see this also in the variable cost. When it's done in the variable cost, it's something that you have to repair because you're producing. What we use the annual repairs and maintenance as a fixed cost is something you have to do even if you're not producing anything. In other words, if your greenhouse collapses, you have to fix it. So that would be a fixed cost. If it collapsed during the off season, you still want to fix it. And that's calculated by taking the total cost, dividing by that useful life, economic life, and then multiplying repairs as a % of the new cost. In this example, we have the total cost, say for the greenhouse, $38,300 divided by the useful life. So we're going to divide that by 20. And then we're going to multiply it by this 2% repairs as a % of the new cost. We come up with $766 in annual repairs and maintenance as a fixed cost. And we add all those up and we come to $1,198 for the fish component of this system. Now, where do these percentages come from? Well, ours are pretty low here at 2%. And this comes from the prior years of looking at these systems and seeing that we really don't have that much that we need to do in terms of repairs. So this is based on kind of experience with your systems and how long these pieces of, or how much you need to spend to affect repairs on these items over time. And we use a similar method here. This is for the plant greenhouse. We take the total cost divided by the useful life and multiply by this 2%, get 766. Of course, the greenhouses for the plant and the fish are the same. It's what's inside them that varies. So we add the 2 together for the fish and the plant greenhouse, and we come up with this $2,414 for the repairs and maintenance. Taxes and insurance, not going to go much into this because taxes can be applied locally, state, in terms of property tax or sales tax. It varies by region, by state, by region, by country. And this could include permits. Sometimes you need permits to operate and need to get inspections and pay fees. So that would come under this item as well. Insurance, yes, you can get property insurance and liability insurance, but it's very difficult to find product insurance. You cannot find insurance very easily if you lose product and want to get reimbursed through an insurance company. That's not available at this time. So those were our fixed costs. Now we're going to look at the cash flow. And the cash flow We take the physical quantities that we measure and we multiply it by unit price to come up with the dollar values. And in the cash flow, you'll see we do it on a monthly basis. So it lists all of the cash inflows. That's all of our sales or any money that the owner operator needs to put into the business. It includes all of the money going out, that is when we're paying for feed or paying for fingerlings or paying for plant seed, et cetera. And it's over a specified time interval. As I said, we'll look at it for monthly over 12 months. And this tells us the short-term need for money. When are we going to need money? Are we going to need it in January? Are we going to need it in March, April? Which month might we have more money going out than coming in? And we always borrow at the end of the month so that we'll have a positive beginning of the next month. The cash flow analysis is similar to, you may have heard this, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and assurance, which is actually like a performance measure of the system. So it shows the producer the financial situation over time. And it's a straightforward concept. You have a beginning balance, you add receipts to that from sales, and then all of the money you borrow or spend on items is subtracted from the receipts, and you have an ending balance for the period. And if that is negative, then you need to borrow money. If it's positive, you do not need to borrow money, and it becomes the beginning entry for the next month. And we don't want to borrow money if we don't have to, because we would incur interest charges. So this is a slide we'll show you about an enterprise, or excuse me, a cash flow. And you can see we have the months from October through September. That's the year we've been operating on. And you have a beginning balance on this slide. And then you have, above that, you have the quantity of sales. And when that quantity of sales is multiplied by the selling price, we get our receipts. And so we're going to go receipts. Here's our receipts in here. And then we have our operating cost. We've broken it down by tilapia and then by cucumbers. And then we have our common expenses. And then down here, we determine what we have left. So we have the cash sales, the cash expenses, the total expenses, the net operating cash flow. We got the cash available. And then that becomes the beginning balance for the next month. And so this flow of incoming money, outgoing money continues over time. And we begin to see when we're going to need money and when we have enough money to make it through the next month. Then we can do a totals column to the right of these rows, and we get an idea of what our ending balance is going to be for the year. So the cash flow, it can be used in two ways. It can be used as what's happening during the year, which is what I'll show you with this aquaponics unit. As each day occurred and we fed the fish, it was marked down. The electric meters were monitored, and all of these different items, we got quantification of how much was used. We multiply it by its unit price to come up with the item in the row for each of these costs and for the month that it occurred. So what you can do is, after you've done this for a year, you know what to expect. So when you're planning the next year, you can go ahead and tweak it for any adjustments you might want to make and have a cash flow for the future year. And then as that future year unfolds, you can see if it's working the way you expected or not. And you can do this year after year. And this is the way you gain a lot of a knowledge of your system, what it can do and what it can't do. And if your goals are being met in terms of sales and or finding lower prices for inputs, et cetera, et cetera. The other use for a cash flow is if I'm going to start up a business, I can I can develop a cash flow based on what I learned from people and the literature and those in the business already about expenses I would incur. So you can go ahead and make a cash flow and then see how that might play out. So the real benefit of the cash flow statement is when will these cash deficits and surpluses occur? That allows you to talk to the banker. Mr. Banker, in February, I expect to have a order of new fingerlings and finish up the old crops that are getting larger in size. So I'm going to need more feed, and therefore my cash outflow is going to exceed my cash inflow, and I will need some money at that time. So the banker all of a sudden knows that you're going to be needing money that month. So it's like, good, okay, we know that in advance. Everybody likes to know no surprises. So also how much you're going to need. And then the banker, he wants to know when you're going to repay it. So when you have some surplus months, you can pay some of those short-term loans that you've been accumulating for the prior months where you didn't have enough cash inflow. So again, this helps you in going to the bank and asking for a loan because it shows you know your operation and the ups and downs of it. And if the banker is confident in your plan, he's likely to give you money. Of course, you're going to have a secured loan. They do not just give money out. And then over a period of time, the banker gains trust in you if you can pay your bills and pay off the loan. And he's more likely to provide the loans you'll need in the future. So it helps you, the business owner, because you know when money may need to be borrowed. It allows you to work around that. In months where you have more money, you might buy some items that you can get at a lower price. It allows you time to comparative shop and look for lower cost inputs. And it allows you to take advantage of sales and pricing discounts. When you can pay things in cash, sometimes you get a discount versus if you have to pay by credit card. So we're going to look at the sales receipts from the aquaponic unit. And this is from the cash flow. So it's the variable or operating cost only. And this is what the spreadsheet looks like for the sales. Up here, we have a section that looks at the quantity sold of tilapia, cucumbers, and cherry tomatoes is in there. But during this 2018-19 year, we do not grow cherry tomatoes. We stuck with cucumbers. So you can see fish were sold in October, November, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, about every month of the year. Whereas cucumbers were sold in October, November, December, nothing in January, February, March, again in April, May, and June. And these numbers, say this 267, will be multiplied by $2.50, our selling price, for a dollar amount of $667 in sales. And likewise for the cucumbers, 221 pounds were sold in October, multiplied by $1.20 is $265 in revenue. So we're doing this each month as these sales occur, and then over here we can add them up and find out what our totals are going to be for the tilapia and for the cucumbers. And total cash inflow is adding up all of this money, including the beginning balance. So when this balance starts here from the end of October and beginning of November, we had a $1,238 beginning cash balance. So we will add all the sales to that. And it comes up to $51.98. And then we will do the rest of the cost for the tilapia and the cucumbers. But before we go there, let me show you the production, the performance of this greenhouse. And the cucumber for the whole year, we sold 12,222 pounds, and that was equivalent to $14,667 in sales. And this is looking at the months of the year, and you can see how the sales went down and went up, but it looks like the height of about 7,500 and the depth of about 2,000 sales. So we're getting some pretty good sales throughout the year. And then over here is the tilapia production. In total, it was only 6,619 pounds, which is not much. What we were concentrating on in this year was not maximizing or optimizing the tilapia production, but it was to look more at the cucumber production. So we were going at kind of a medium pace, low risk in our tilapia. This could be ramped up easily doubled, but that's for next year. The total sales of tilapia was about 16,547, and you can see where they went to. For our project, we sold some tilapia at the Fishery station. We have a market there, and then a lot of the tilapia went to campus dining. Our cucumbers, you can see some of it went to campus dining, but a lot of it was donated to the East Alabama Food Bank. But we still gave it the same cost that we would get if we sold it to the dining services of $1.20 a pound. There's a little story there where Tiger Dining Services said, you know, just produce everything you can and we'll take it. Well, we soon started producing so much and that they told us to halt. They had they could not use 150 pounds of cucumbers per day. So that brings up a good point we'll talk about is marketing. Be sure you can market these products, but we'll talk about that later. So the variable cost for the cash flow. Okay, this is the tilapia operation. And you can see we have the item here in our cash flow, and we've got the cost per unit, and we've got the units we're using. And then we've multiplied these 50-pound bags, the physical number of bags used by the cost per bag to come up with these costs here. And we used a 40% protein and a 36% protein with a 10 and 6% fat respectively. And so that came up with about $2,573 for the year. So we're not putting a terribly large amount of feed into these tilapia systems. And we had to pay freight for the feed, big order. The fingerlings we had to pay early in the production period. Labor is consistent throughout. And then water for the greenhouse. We use a reservoir pond. This reservoir pond is gravity fed to the station. So we did not put a high price on the water here, but if you're having to dig a well, you'd have to put those costs in here. So we can see the variable cost went up and down through the year, and you can see the different items here and the variable cost and how much they were for the cucumbers. Now here, looking at the end of the cash flow, we'll see the cash available, ending cash balance, and you'll see once it got close to zero, but never went negative, so we didn't borrow there. And down here, the cumulative cash balance, you can see at the end of the year, we did have some money left, and we had money available every month of the year. So now we go to enterprise budgeting. We've shown you how to get the fixed costs from that investment table. We've showed you now how to do the variable cost. So now we do the enterprise budget. And this is to help us predict through a planning operation and to summarize ongoing operations. And enterprise budget is a snapshot in time, and it's used to compare this enterprise to something else. If you wanted to just grow tilapia or just wanted to look at a floating bed production of lettuce, follow the same rules, and you could compare this to that and see which one you might want to do. So as you've seen, we've kept records, detailed records on feed, fingerlings, seed, labor, electricity, chemicals, repairs, and other. And what we add here in the enterprise budget is an interest on the operating costs. This is a short-term loan. And the reason we do this is because all the money that goes in to purchase those inputs, we want to compare apples to apples. Someone that has to borrow that money is paying an interest rate on it. some other person does not have to borrow the money, they can self-finance and they don't pay the interest. Well, it would not be equal to compare the two. So we have to charge this, sometimes called an opportunity cost, for each of these enterprise situations. So what you need to do is know what you're buying specifically and how much you're buying and the unit cost of each. So price times quantity is going to equal the cost or the revenue. And here's our tilapia production results. And I'm going to go quickly past this because we got to finish up. And here are the cucumber production results. And again, you can go back and see this recorded presentation to get these numbers. So in our enterprise budget, we have our receipts. We have $31,214 for the year of both tilapia and cucumber sales. Our variable cost for tilapia is $13,441. Our cucumber variable cost equals $16,910. And looking at the tilapia and cucumber variable cost in this bar graph as percentages, you can see the major costs for the tilapia were electricity, the water, and the labor. And for the cucumbers, it was the labor and electricity. So both of them share labor and electricity as one of the major costs. Now the water, interestingly enough, we only charge once for that going into the fish greenhouse. So we have a big charge for it here, but since it's the effluent leaving it going to the cucumber greenhouse, we're not charging for that a second time. We do have a few common expenses such as potassium chloride, the gas for trucks, some of the maintenance on the trucks. And so we've split those two by itself, and then adding the tilapia and the cucumber variable cost, we get a total operating cost of $31,272. So we look at the income above variable cost for the fish, and we have a positive $2,645. Income above variable cost for the cucumbers, we have a negative $2,703, and we add those together for the whole operation, we're down $58. And then we need to add in our fixed cost, and the total fixed cost is $13,310. So the total cost is $44,582. That's the fixed cost plus the variable cost. And our net returns to the land and the owner operator, the returns to fish is a negative 3821. Net return to cucumbers a negative 9547, and together negative 13,368. So this looks like we're losing money. We are. And why is that? When we calculate the cost of production, you can see the tilapia covering both variable and fixed cost is $3.08, but we're only getting a sales price of $2.50. So we're losing 58 cents per pound. Immediately, I start thinking, can we get a higher price for these fish somewhere? We might need to explore for new markets. On the cucumbers, we see that to cover the variable and fixed costs, the cost of production is $1.98. We're getting $1.20. So we're losing 78 cents per pound. Immediately, I think, is this the right crop to be growing? Or can we get a higher price for it? Or maybe I need to diversify my products and get a mix here. So sensitivity analysis. It's important that we can do some of these, and we've done all the hard work already by developing these investment spreadsheets and the cash flow and then the enterprise budget. And now we can vary the prices, or we could vary our tilapia production method, or vary our diversity of crops. And this is what we can look at here to see how that, at least on paper anyway, would affect our bottom line. But the real success is when you actually put it into operation and make tweaks along the way. So sensitivity analysis answer what if questions. So what if we varied the two output prices? You know, we changed that tilapia price from $2.50 a pound to $3 per pound, and we increased the cucumber price from $1.20 to $2 per pound. And so how does this affect the short and long-term net returns? And what we get with a sensitivity analysis, the way I'm going to show you, is a matrix of results. which will show you both increases and decreases above those values. But you need to use judgment. Can these prices actually be obtained? And if you just give a high price and say, look, I'm making money, that will have to be tested in the marketplace. So what you can see here are cucumber prices at $1.20, which is what we used in our analysis, all the way up to $2.60 and $2.60 per pound in 20-cent increasing increments. And the tilapia price from $2 to $4 in 25-cent increments as well. So when we feed that into our using our enterprise budget to calculate these, at the $1.20 and $2.50 was our negative $13,368. That's what we came up with. Now at this new price of $2 for cucumbers and $3 for tilapia, we're losing still $281. But you can see all of these numbers in gray are where it intersects between the cucumber and the tilapia price, and those are positives. So now the cost of production for the tilapia covering variable and fixed costs is $3.08. The sales price is $3, so we're losing 8 cents per pound, much better. The cucumber covering variable and fixed costs, $1.98, and sale price of $2, we're losing 2 cents a pound. So it's getting better, but we're losing money in 3 of those 4 instances there. So sensitivity analysis number 2. What if we add another greenhouse? What if we add another plant greenhouse, or 2 more plant greenhouses, or 3 more plant greenhouses? The research that has been conducted by Daniel Wells and Brendan and David Blursch have shown us that there's plenty of fertilizer in the water to fully fertigate these additional greenhouses. But is it practical? I mean, to increase the number of greenhouses, we're going to have to increase the number of greenhouse units. So we got all those investment costs for the additional plant greenhouse. We're going to have to increase our variable inputs and therefore the variable cost as well. So several things need to be changed to make this analysis accurate. We're going to keep, in this sensitivity analysis, we're going to keep these tilapia prices at $3 a pound. The cucumber price, I think we moved it up to $2, not $1.40 per pound. So how does this change the short and long-term results? So we can see 1 fish greenhouse, 1 plant greenhouse. That was the operation that we had looked at already. And then we have 1 fish greenhouse, 2 plant greenhouses, 1 fish greenhouse, 3 plant greenhouses, 1 fish greenhouse, 4 plant greenhouses, using the $3 and $2 for those pounds for the tilapia and cucumber products. And we can go right down here to our net returns, and looking at the tilapia was losing, cucumber gain positive, and tilapia losing a little bit more, the cucumber gaining a lot more with 2 cucumber greenhouses. With 3 cucumber greenhouses, we're getting a lot more for the cucumbers. This tilapia goes up in cost, and that's due to those common expenses that we divided 50-50 between the tilapia and the cucumber enterprises. And at 4 plant greenhouses, again with the 1 fish greenhouse, we're making money with the cucumber and losing money with the tilapia, but combined making about $23,000. And looking at the cost of production above the fixed and variable cost, you can see for the cucumber, it's going down, $1.98 per pound, $1.59 per pound, $1.57 per pound, $1.48 per pound. So I've given you a lot of information in a very, very short time. Let me get to the final section of this presentation, looking at lessons learned and future research. These are things that we're going to have to look at. One, there are ways to decrease the initial investment. And like I said earlier, for research, we have plenty of cost in there that probably would not be needed for a commercial operation. So that's one thing that immediately could be done. And secondly, we need to focus on improving production efficiency, and labor is expensive. A lot of hand labor to pick the cucumbers and to deliver them, a lot of labor in harvesting the tilapia, transporting them on ice to the dining facility. And we did not do this, but dining services had to hire people to fillet the tilapia. And believe me, it's hard to get people that want to fillet fish. So eventually they hired one of our employees to fillet the fish. Lowering production cost. So that could be done by increasing the output of tilapia, which I think could be done fairly straightforwardly if the money is there to do that and if there's a market for it, and for the cucumbers as well. Additional value streams needed. I mentioned that outdoor raised bed vegetable production of tomatoes, which did not include that in this analysis, but it certainly could be included. And then using that solid effluent as an additional income source. It could be used as a perlite replacement medium or to be spread on agricultural fields. And all of this, marketing is the key to success. I say this because it's the price that we're getting for the tilapia and the cucumbers. Different markets will bear different prices, and it depends on where you're located. Location, location, location. If you're 1.5 to 2.5 hours away from South and North Atlanta like we are, it almost rules that market out. If you're located within 30 minutes of north and south, east and west of Atlanta, then you're in an ideal position to spend a lot less on transportation to get your product to some markets, and they would have some markets that would probably pay a higher price. So that's what we mean by market diversification here. And also under diversification, we need to not only increase the number of vegetables, the type of vegetables is what I'm talking about. Do some more tomatoes, do some herbs. You can even do ornamental plants. We had research on that here too, and they get a pretty high price. And increase the number of outlets. So if one dries up, you're not left with nowhere to go with your perishable product. And finally, I think we went through that. So here's a list of websites you can go to get more information on the economics of aquaponics and on financing options and strategies. And here's some more websites for aquaponic industry trends and marketing outlets and strategies. So with that, I will stop and wait and answer any questions. And also, David Klein wanted you to know that these webinars are recorded.
These and many other educational videos and webinars are available on the U.S. Aquaculture Society YouTube channel and website, the National Aquaculture Association website and YouTube channel, and the Aquaculture Education and More YouTube channel by David Klein.